Hello, my name is Mia Blatt, and I'll be talking about Torreon, Mexico, a smelter community in the central part of northern Mexico. I will go into the health challenges from lead exposure due to the smelter activities in the community. In this presentation, I will go into detail about Torreon and the Metmex-Peñoles smelter, the zinc and lead production by year, the role distance plays in lead exposure, the environmental and health intervention, follow-up information on the progress of the intervention, and a summary of the important points from the presentation. Torreon, Mexico is the largest city of the La Laguna region that was built up near the Metmex-Peñoles metal facility. Torreon is one of the more important economic and industrial centers in all of Mexico. The Metmex-Peñoles complex is the world's fourth largest lead, zinc, and silver metal smelters. This smelter was built in early 1900 and processes approximately one-third of the lead ore in Latin America. One of the biggest public health threats to this community is lead exposure from the smelter among children, and I will discuss this in more detail throughout the presentation. The growth of industry in northern Mexico has created some severe environmental problems. Yet, environmental controls have lagged behind. The exposure pathway of lead in children in this community has been through inhalation and ingestion of contaminated soil and dust, as well as outdoor ambient levels. Lead has long been a health threat to people living in communities surrounding ore smelters and refineries. Lead affects almost every system in the body. It can cause high blood pressure and affect growth and development, psychological behavior, and intelligence. Lead exposure among young children is most concerning because children absorb lead more readily than adults, and the developing nervous system of children is vulnerable to the adverse effects of lead. The presence of this industry has led to the chronic environmental exposure to lead, zinc, and other heavy metals in the population, especially in children. Formal studies performed since 1997 have shown a high concentration of lead in the soil and air. One of these studies showed the presence of lead in the blood of school children in a relationship directly proportional to their proximity to the smelter. This problem gave rise to an environmental emergency situation, as it represented a big public health problem. This table shows the role of distance from the smelter in the children's lead blood levels and the environmental lead concentrations from the study mentioned in the previous slide. As you can see, the children at the remote school site 3, which was situated 8,100 meters away from the smelter, had significantly lower blood lead levels when compared to those close to the school as well as the intermediate distance school site. It is also important to note that the environmental lead concentrations were lower on average at the remote site compared to the other two sites. So, it seems that it's important to consider distance when building a community around a smelter. To handle the situation, the State Secretariat of Health, the Office of the Federal Attorney for Environmental Protection, and Metmex-Peñoles implemented actions to control and reduce emissions and improve the smelting processes in the facility. In 1999, Metmex funded the creation of a metals program to coordinate health-related actions for the population with environmental lead exposure. To regenerate the environment, teams with high-efficiency vacuums cleaned the streets, building roofs and house interiors to reduce the accumulated concentration of lead on surfaces and in the soil. Contaminated soil was removed, thorough cleaning of public and private living spaces was conducted, and streets and patios near the facility were paved. Above, you can see blood levels were decreasing over time from the onset of these actions. After 5 years of operation of the METMEX program, the situation was deemed to no longer represent an environmental emergency since the actions resulted in significantly reduced child blood lead levels of the community. As you can see in Table 4, 71% of children had blood lead levels under 10 micrograms per deciliter, which does not require health intervention. In summary, although lead exposure and output has decreased over time, it remains a public health threat to the community, especially those living close to the METMEX facility. METMEX continues to pollute the environment, but the levels of contamination have decreased as well as the child blood lead levels, with new technologies and implementation of environmental health measures over time. A lesson to be learned is that distance between smelters and communities should be considered when building a community or opening a new facility. Here are the references I used for this presentation. Thank you so much for watching.